Okay, so welcome back to video 2 in this series, Understanding Alcoholism. My name's Paul Henderson, and as I said in the first video, I was a rock bottom alcoholic for years, nearly losing my life on many occasions, being locked up, drinking, driving, losing my dignity, losing my family, losing my home, being homeless. My life was bereft of meaning and so on. So I'm speaking through experience. Today, I'm 25, 26 years sober. I'm also, I train therapists for a living. So I have quite a knowledge of psychology today, which stemmed from my own downfall, incidentally. Okay. So in the first video, we looked at the seductive nature of alcohol, how it gives this illusion that it's alleviating our problems, when at best it's really masking our problems. Okay, and it does this by enabling us to forget, become disinhibited, and also our memory become impaired. So we don't care and we lose our memory when we imbibe alcohol. So this amnesia, alcoholic amnesia, gives the illusion that we no longer have any problems, but it doesn't last. We need more and more alcohol to try and evoke this state. Okay, so what's happening here from a psychological point of view? Well, fundamentally, in life, there are two instinctual responses to life's experience, and they're called fight or flight. And when we drink alcohol, when we use alcohol as a vehicle to escape our problems, we're in flight mode. It means we're running away from our problems. And the best way to deal with our problems, the best way to escape our problems, is to deal with them. What happens basically when we drink alcohol, we repress our pain. Now, what that means is that we get our pain and we push it down into the unconscious mind. Alcohol has this effect. It seems to repress our memories, helping us forget, helping us not care. But when we repress, and repression is the unconscious exclusion of information. In other words, it's pushed down so far into our psyche, we don't remember it anymore, for a while at least. So when we do this, it gives us the illusion that we've actually solved our problems and we're free from pain. And we attribute that to the effects of alcohol, because to some extent that's true. But again, it's an illusion. It doesn't last very long. We need more and more alcohol to reach this effect, to get this effect. And what happens when we drink more and more alcohol? Not only do we forget our pain, but we forget our manners, we forget the rules and regulations of society, we forget our ethics, we forget our morals, we forget our conscience. In effect, what's happening is our conscience is also inactive when we drink excessively. Therefore, we're like loose cannons. Our memory is impaired, our conscience is knocked out of action, we don't care, so no wonder we act in a way that we would never ever act when we're sober. So there we go, we've got the fight or flight response, and when we use alcohol excessively, we're in flight mode. We're running away from our problems. We're running away from our discontentment. So in a sense, what we've got here, just to explain, consistency of alcohol is very much like that of water, which means it can slip through the blood-brain barrier in the brain and reach the frontal lobes of our brain. And this is where we get the effect of alcohol seemingly alleviating our pain. But all it's done, it's repressed our pain, it's pressed it down. And pain is energy, and energy is neither destroyed or created, it just changes form. So when we press down this energy by using alcohol, this repressed energy begins to manifest in our life as a multitude of other problems: mood swings, anger, violence, depression, um, addiction, alcoholism, and so on. So ultimately, we've got to deal with our pain. We can't repress our pain over a long period of time. We can suppress it, we could put it on the back boiler for a while, but ultimately we've got to deal with it. So the next stage in our journey, for a person who's experiencing alcoholism, is to identify the source of the pain. We can't deal with pain if it's repressed, because repression by definition means it's unconscious material. We don't know it's there. We can see the manifestations of it, the bursts of anger, the mood swings, the addictions. We can see the manifestations of it, but we can't see the catalyst of it. And here I would recommend perhaps seeing a therapist, maybe one of our Alcoholic to Alchemist trained therapists here, because they're trained to help you, to enable you to identify the source of this pain. Okay? And over the years, and having worked with and having been with thousands upon thousands of people suffering from alcoholism all of my life, I've come up with four categories of pain that are prominent, that gives rise to this need to escape via the bottle. Okay, and they are psychological pain. So we've got psychological pain, we've got fear, we've got guilt, and we've got futility. Let's just look at them. So these are the four broad categories of pain that people seem to want to escape from. There are many subcategories of these, so I'm not trying to pigeonhole here. We just want to get an idea of what sorts of pain are people wanting to escape from via the bottle. Unresolved childhood issues is a very big one. People who have had difficulty in childhood, in particular, that have got unresolved issues with perhaps parents, siblings, friends, that sort of thing. What we need to do here, we need to make the unconscious material, the stuff that is fueling our alcoholism, we need to make it conscious, which is painful, okay? And that's why people turn to the bottle, they run away to the bottle all the time. But it's painful in the short term when you deal with it, because once it's resolved at a conscious level, you can move on and your life will change in ways you could never imagine. And I can verify that. Like I say, I have a fantastic life today. So unresolved childhood issues, unresolved past issues of any sort, really. So psychological pain could be grief. And we don't just grieve for the death of a person. We can grieve through the loss of a job. Grief is all about loss. So we can grieve through loss, and sometimes that can turn us to the drink. And ultimately, drink makes us lose one very important thing in our life. Well, two: our dignity and our self. We lose ourselves completely when we drink excessively. So psychological pain is one source. These are what I term in the book Alcoholic to Alchemist, and this is a small handbook with the 12 steps in it. It's what I term in there the sobriety saboteurs, and there's 4 of them. And we've got to educate ourselves as to what is it exactly that's causing us to drink destructively. So there's psychological pain. Then we've got guilt. Now, guilt is normally a prominent factor, because what tends to happen with us, and I speak for myself here as well, we may do well for a while. We might put the bottle down for a while. We might have this relief from alcoholism, and our friends and our family see a change in us, and their hopes are high for us, and then all of a sudden it implodes and caves in on us. We relapse, and we are filled with guilt and remorse. Just thinking about them days, it feels horrible to me. And that guilt, for me and for the thousands of people I've known over the years with alcoholism, is often the factor that leads to a relapse. Okay? But don't treat relapse as failure. There's no such thing as failure really in life. There's feedback. Now, every time I relapsed, I did treat it as failure. I wouldn't today, and hopefully it won't happen again today, but I did treat it as failure, and I felt so guilty that I wanted the flight mode, fight or flight, like I wanted to run away. I couldn't look my parents in the eye, I couldn't look my partners in the eye, I couldn't look my sister in the eye, and so forth. You know, people who were close to me, prominent people. I couldn't look people in the eye because once again I'd failed. But let's reframe that. It's not failure, we get feedback. What I realized in the end is every time I drank, the feedback I got is it doesn't work. It just makes things a lot worse. So we must deal with our pain. So guilt is another one. Okay. So here we've got psychological pain, we've got guilt, fear is another one, okay? And one of the acronyms they use in AA as well is fear stands for forget everything and run. Actually, the way they term it is F everything and run, okay? Again, you'll notice that the theme here is escapism. We're trying to escape. We say to ourselves, I want to get out of my head tonight because it's in your head, in your psyche, where the problem resides. The problem does not reside in the bottle. I must make that distinction. People people attribute all sorts of powerful, mysterious things to alcohol, like alcohol is powerful. Alcohol isn't powerful. It's what's in our mind that's creating the problem. When alcohol mingles, when alcohol ignites the pain in our mind, that's when problems start. So the problem doesn't reside in the bottle. The problem resides in us. Okay? And that's great because the locus of power is not in somebody else. It's not in a bottle outside us. The problem resides within us, and we can't change other people. Okay, we can't do a lot about the outside world, but we can change what's within. We can change our relationship to alcohol, and that's what it's all about. And so we've got fear. So these are the four prime factors that people want to escape from: psychological pain, fear, which is another form of pain, really. Okay, guilt. And the last one is more subtle, okay? And it's futility. Boredom. What's life all about? You see this maybe with some footballers who've retired or pop stars who are no longer in the public eye. For me, I started to feel this. I was in a band when I was young, and we may be on nightclubs with, you know, I used to be in a band with my best friends, and we were the centre of attention. And the next day we had no work. And it was what's life about? And I found when I drank, I used to dream a little bit. And it helped to counteract the futility. Bear in mind, in the end, I was drinking 2 bottles of vodka a day, trying to chase that very feeling that was never going to come back again. And on that note, I'm going to end this short video because I want to speak about something called the abreactive threshold on the next video. And this is, people say, oh, there was a line across with drinking, and once across that line, I never went back to normal drinking again. I'm going to talk about that on the next video. But what the takeaways from this video are, once again, to reiterate from the first video, that alcohol is a vehicle that we use to escape the curriculum of life, in particular pain, suffering. Suffering is an integral part of life. There was a poem, I forget who it was by now, but it said, man was made for joy and woe, and when this we truly know, through life we safely go. Joy and woe are woven fine, the clothing of the soul divine. And what it says in essence, that poem, is that we're inevitably going to experience pain and suffering in life, joy and woe. And we must embrace both. We can't repress pain because it will manifest in many other guises, mood swings, so on. Okay, the way I often term that, the terminology I use is that when we stuff down within us, it's not dead and buried, it's buried alive. It's very active and it impacts our life from an unconscious level. So we must make the unconscious conscious. Once again, to sum up, the things that we're escaping from, the four broad categories are psychological pain, fear, guilt, and futility or boredom. Okay. So on that note, I'm going to end this video, and in the next one, I'm going to talk about this invisible line that we cross. And when we cross it, there doesn't seem to be any return to normal drinking. Thank you.